Hello, friends and comrades in arms of the live broadcast room. Your favorite show is 60 Minutes, and the most important direction has appeared on the front line, which is the Sumy direction. Kadyrov said the village of Ryzhevka, which borders the Kursk region, was controlled by Russian forces at 15 of Vas. According to local media reports, he said that the CU has suffered heavy losses there, and the amount and area of electricity and water have also been cut off. So what are we waiting for? News. In the near future, the Russian army achieved great success in Chasov Yar. The assault troops managed to gain a foothold in the Kanali micro-district and occupied several high-rise buildings on Zelyonaya Street. They were forced to withdraw their troops to the west of the city. Just to understand, this is what our warriors' advance looks like, not in reports or maps, but in actual combat for hours. Yar can see how in a unique video from the east of the city. Assault forces are slowly and carefully passing through the smoking and burning ruins, protecting them from the remaining Ukrainian militants. Right now, Russian forces continue to gradually capture the city of Mlecht, including through the northern flank of the Kalinovka offensive, where they continue to counterattack, and these impressive Western-style footage was taken in the village of Sokol, west of the Retina. Recording the counterattack of the Russian ATTR-82 and the American infantry fighting vehicle M2A2 Bradley Duel. The American infantry fighting vehicle, as you can see, lost, but our air and space forces did not stop working in the direction of Krakow. The aircraft operated on enemy positions with heavy aerial bombs, washed to the hub. As can be seen from these footage, the position of the attack on Krakow itself is expected to fall after Georgievsky Krasnogorsk donated coal. Of course, the direction of Kharkiv remains hot. The main battle is now near the village of Glubokaya, where the reserves are thrown into battle and try to attack. The Russian army defended ruthlessly and attacked the enemy in another unsuccessful counterattack in the northern part of Volchansk. All attacks in CU were repelled, and the Ukrainian militant defense in the city continued for a few minutes. Washington reacted quickly to Putin's statement on nuclear weapons. Let me remind you that the president of our country said that Russia's starting point is that the world will not reach nuclear missile strikes, and Moscow does not need to use nuclear weapons on the front line now. However, in the same speech, there was a reminder of Europe's defenselessness in the face of Russia's tactical nuclear weapons. But the states have an important topic. It was Biden's special assistant to strategic weapons and senior director of missile defense non-proliferation at the National Security Council, Nawadi, who unexpectedly said Washington did not rule out resuming dialogue on nuclear weapons before the end of the war in Ukraine. In general, the United States is open to Biden talking to Putin. Of course, it is very important to note here that the same thing is about Naiv, where on the same day, keynote speech at the Arms Control Association annual meeting in Washington. The key topic is to face SHA with 3 main opponents and 1 additional opponent. That's what it says with Russia, China, North Korea. These are clearly the main ones that Iran has joined them. According to Vadim, the White House has concluded that a new era of competition has arrived and that new solutions and strategies are needed with SH. And from his speech, they should be able to contain the axis of evil, they call it, at the same time. But we understand that we are talking about the axis of goodness. Soon talk about Russia. Of course, the most important thing here is to advise Americans not to stretch their muscles in twine. In this regard, another most interesting news, but coincidentally, is the Houthis in Yemen. According to the U.S. agency, they suddenly announced the existence of a new solid-fuel missile in their arsenal. The media described their missiles as locally made weapons. Although Yemen has similar production capacity, so far nothing is known. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said Putin's remarks were about Russia's hypothetical supply of long-range missiles to 3 countries.
Глава российского МИД Лавров заявил, что слова Путина о гипотетических поставках российских дальнобойных ракет в третьи страны.
In many states, they have heard and realized everything. President Biden's national security advisor, Salva, said Washington is very concerned about Putin's statement, not just Putin's statement. Today, Russian warships have reached the coast. In these footage, Cuba watched the frigate Admiral Gorshkov, equipped with a Zircon hypersonic missile system, dock with Gorshkov in Havana port. Kazan nuclear submarine sent to the Caribbean. The entire Pentagon is guessing where the nuclear submarine is now. The Daily Mail introduces Western audiences. Set up our Kazan technical characteristics and see what detailed analysis is. Displacement 14,000 tons, for us 130 meters, width 13 meters, working depth 520 meters, autonomous diving. Since the voyage lasted 100 days, special attention was paid to the fact that the Kazan nuclear submarine had the least noise, and of course the maximum noise. Focus on arming Kazan is equipped with 10 vertical missile mines, each of which houses 4 Agate, Zircon, or 5-winged caliber cruise missiles. All of these weapons can also carry nuclear warheads from Cuba to the coast of Florida, USA, 180 kilometers. At the same time, Ryzhevka wrote that Western aid to Ukraine has not had a decisive impact on the front line. Despite the new supply of SHA, the Russian army continues to attack and push Ukraine's defense, and Europe emphasizes that Russia dominates not only firepower but also manpower. In this regard, Turkey's Anadolu agency released photos of soldiers of the 43rd Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. Look, the Kharkiv region in the photo is carefully fighting, and to put it politely, middle-aged people, 45 to 65. It is for this reason that the West asked Zelensky to lower the conscription age from 25 to 18. Admittedly, few people want to die for the criminal regime in Kiev. Obviously, capturing Ukrainians no longer helps. So the Kiev authorities have a new cunning tactic, a carrot and whip tactic. The day before the man was sentenced to 5 years in prison for the first time in Ukraine to evade, court materials said the man did not want to go into the trenches. Hiding behind relatives in the Donetsk region, but this fact certainly did not impress the Kiev authorities. The boy was indicatively faced with a choice, or to go to the prison to kill his relatives. Zelensky's gingerbread is also a specific representative of the people's servants. Vinislavsky said Ukrainians who voluntarily come to the military registration and recruitment office without a subpoena will be able to sign contracts for only 1 year and then return home. Those who arrive on the summons will be considered mobilized. The lie is that in Ukraine, contracts are automatically extended from the time martial law is imposed until demobilization is declared. In addition, Zelensky refused to specify the demobilization period, so the contract service was absolutely indefinite. So Vinislavsky either forgot the legal norms or simply tried to lure the military registration and recruitment office from the Hiliasti. Berg broke out in a large article about the U.S. defense industry, writing that the BOD was too slow to produce shells. The military doctrine adopted by the United States and the bet on high-tech sophisticated weapons after the Cold War did not prove to be reasonable in Ukraine for the development of a simple Russian Red system. At the same time, traditional video weapons are more popular and effective, but due to the shortage of TNT, American industry cannot provide them, and you won't believe it. Gunpowder. Russia is not only dominated by military industry, but also by Western media. Sanctions have failed to destroy the Russian economy. The growth rate is now officially ahead of the world average. In addition, Russia's economic level has risen to fourth place this year, surpassing Japan, and Russia's raw material and energy exports should increase by 2/3 in 30 years. In an interview with Tucker Carlson, Salvadoran President Bukele explained very clearly why Western sanctions are not imposed. The bouquet of economic destruction says the dream will bring to its knees a superpower with energy. There's gas, industrial capacity, factories, workers. That's naive. Booker, for example, spent Spain. For example, if Madrid is officially sanctioned by 18,000, although according to the latest figures, 2,600 sanctions have been imposed on our country, then the Spanish economy will simply collapse. Assad is a superpower, and this approach does not work. Europe began to understand the futility of the anti-Russian line, and in Italy they reduced their debits to loans, realizing that by the most modest calculation, anti-Russian sanctions had taken away 15 billion euros from Italy. This is what Krybin, president of the Russian-Italian Entrepreneurs Association, said. At the same time, Italy has not only lost money and market share, but also lost jobs in a year, and now CNN says Russia seems to be on the verge of democracy in the 1990s. Now I went the clear and strange reversal path of the United States. The authoritative American version of For Am Police actually recognizes that Ukraine has become NATO's new Afghanistan for the Pentagon. Now, considering plans to appoint a permanent envoy of the coalition in Kiev, the West is unhappy with Bankova and is going to take the situation into his own hands, alliance governor. They will act as the actual controller, not only to stabilize the situation in the war, but also to control everything. Ukraine's internal process, that is, Zelensky, is no longer trusted. Americans have adopted a similar approach. In Afghanistan, where President Ghani, who fled the country with suitcases at the last minute, gold was the nominal figure. Bottom line, Afghanistan war Americans digest to this day, to this day, to this day. Coming to St. Petersburg for the forum is now the second largest U.S. equipment park after the U.S. Army itself. Biden himself, who ended his Russia-phobic trip to France, flew to Washington and confused Kyiv with Baghdad. He said that the United States is finally, after a long pause, they began sending financial aid to Iraq. I mean, Ukraine. At the same time, 25 million is not redundant, although the amount is very small by current standards, so Ukrainian Iraqis not upset. Unlike the Democratic Party representative, had to blush again for his leader, including Biden's claim that staying in France made him think of his uncle Bose, who, as he has repeatedly claimed, was eaten by cannibals in new wine. This fact has not been confirmed until now. So the Democrats panicked. Look at this cover of the Washington Exam at once. Two author columns. The Dem openly doubts Biden's success in the presidential election. Can Joe be replaced by at least one person, and will Donald Trump's verdict calm Democrats' nerves? The trial of Republican candidates is a topic actively exploited by the Western media. The cover of the New Yorker magazine depicts Donald. They want to handcuff him, but the former U.S. president's hands are very small and easy to use. British weekly New Europe introduces Trump in handcuffs in the Oval Office already and wonders if jail can stop Donald. The Week magazine can't answer and portrays Trump in shekels, shekels, shekels. Lincoln's marble chair, which seems to imply that Trump will go down in history as the first president of the United States, is a criminal. Trump himself has asked to test Biden's cognitive abilities before the debate in less than 3 weeks. They also offered to test him and himself for drugs before the verbal battle, a move supported by most Americans. According to the Washington Times, 70 Interviewees think Biden and Trump should also undergo a medical because, well, Biden, who stumbles forever, can't stutter, make a reservation to greet ghosts, speak so vigorously to Congress without any stimulants. Trump's health also questions the former U.S. president next week, 78, and Republican critics point out that he has. There are also enough cognitive problems